name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Yeah, hey guys. So ATP Weekly is back. Of course, we are back after a bit of a break because we didn't have one between the 2 weeks of Indian Wells. But we are back to review the whole event. We will also have the draw from Miami. So unlike last time when we had to kind of just like come up with something regarding Indian Wells, this time we'll also be able to talk about the contenders and like where they are in the draw and the likes. But that will of course come later. For now, I mean, Mario, no, I'm not British, you are not British, but we have a lot of British guys on Talking Tennis, and they have been wild in the group chat over the last few days for Jack Draper. And, well, rightfully so. A title only once had dropped, and his first ATP 1000, of course.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic fortnight for him. He actually started the season already with some solid results. Of course, Australian Open a bit difficult, but we also knew about the preparation not being ideal. But then again, the final reached in Doha. He was close to the title already there, and now Indian Wells, wow, because also a very, very tough run, because beating, of course, back to back a former champion like Taylor Fritz, Ben Shelton, of course Alcaraz, and then I mean the final against Rune as well. What to say? He's been knocking on the door for a while, because he's also ended the 2024 season pretty well, and yeah, just in everything to fall in the right piece, and with some consistency also from the physical point of view that he seems to have found in the past, let's say, after the Australian Open, also having the right schedule, like for example, not pushing his body too much after Doha, withdrawing from Dubai, just taking some time to avoid any issues, seems like to have paid off. And now, of course, he's broken also inside the top 10. So he will have a favorable position, of course, in the next draws. And yeah, just a great player whose growth has been, let's say, we can stay, a bit ups and downs over the past years because of his physical issues. But then it seems like since winning Stuttgart in 2024, things started to come together also from that point of view. We've seen also him reaching the first semi-final at the Grand Slam at the US Open. So then, of course, Vienna, and now this. So what to say? Just playing at a very, very, very high level the whole week. Just that second set against Alcaraz, who his body language started being a little bit weird for let's say the last 10 minutes of that set, but he regrouped immediately. It was just a moment, and then in the final, a great showdown. Didn't feel, I don't know, the pressure of playing, arguably, the most important match of his career, as well as that semi-final at the US Open, probably a little less than that, but with a big title on the line. So he handled the occasion pretty well, and yeah, just amazing signs from him. And now we'll see what's next.
Yeah, I mean, we have a bit of a weird situation right now on the ATP Tour. Obviously, Sinner is gone up until Rome. We've got Zverev, who is losing. Alcaraz, we're going to talk about soon as well. And like after that, there's no real number 4 contender or something like that. Like there's nobody that is really stepping up and being better than the rest of the field. 1 week it's I don't know, Holger Rune making the final here, Stefanos Tsitsipas winning Dubai, Taylor Fritz this year hasn't really done anything of note. So like is Jack Draper like the next logical candidate to make the ATP finals this year and just kind of be what Taylor Fritz was last year?
Why not? I mean, he's of course now third in the race, already accumulated a number of points, and so I mean, I think the ATP finals, should be at this point kind of a minimum goal for him. Of course, it depends on how he does physically for the whole year. That's for sure. Well, we'll say. It has to be a goal for him, because once you get to number 7 in the world, now 6 in the live ranking entering Miami, it has to be a goal of yours to, of course, try to step up even more, reach that, let's say, top 4 level. And I mean, nobody is truly looking untouchable right now. So I think Draper has all the rights to try to dream big and to strive for big goals. And I would like him for sure to really believe in his abilities to really be a big threat to that's my that's my sister. You will have the question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. Definitely, I think what we've seen Taylor do last year, or I don't know, Casper as well for some parts of the season, like this feels very achievable to Jack right now. By the way, Lau, you mentioned not before 90 minutes for the draw. It's already out, so I'm not really sure what you meant there. But anyway, yeah, we'll be talking about it a bit later. In terms of Draper, yeah, it's been such an evolution over the years from coming up as a pretty generic lefty big hitter and now being like this pretty consistent force, very solid, but also of course still having that weight of shot. Some very good sets. Some very good sets. This Indian Wells run where like he was very just good at choosing when to pull the trigger as well, not only just resetting with that loopy topspin, which actually it's an amazing play in Indian Wells for sure. Great chords for him too. Started the way he started against Fonseca, just being far too consistent for him, is kind of how it kept going to. It was like a real sign of what's to come, that win. And indeed, right now, yeah, top 10 already, and it just doesn't seem like, besides the top 2, maybe 3, because Zverev is for now a bit of a maybe in that group. Like, yeah, it just doesn't feel like there's anyone that's like much, much, much stronger right now. So yeah, it's going to be definitely quite exciting to see him over the next few months, where he's not defending too many points. That's also something that Lau is referencing here in terms of let's see what he will do on the clay. I have been a subscriber to the Jack Draper is actually very good on clay theory for years, so I don't think he's going to be horrible. And yeah, he should gain a ton of points there for sure.
Yeah, there's no real reason for me. There's no real reason for me to, not think he will be able to achieve something decent on the clay, because I think, the serve he can use also. He can use also slices, placement, and not just, trying to change things a little bit. He's solid, both swings, both forehand and backhand. So, being able to also hit that hard with the forehand can help him a lot. Finding the angles really well. I think Indian Wells, it's being, with that clayish, let's say, court that they have, with a higher bounce, I think it's also a testament that he can do pretty well kind of everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, let's, I guess, now move on to the finalists. So Holger Rune, of course, was there. Well, the thing is, like, this Indian Wells week, when it comes to like who we're going to be talking about and everybody, like, it's really just based on Draper. Because Rune, even though this was a very positive week for him, I just can't really bring myself to be just like, oh wow, what an amazing run, Holger, after the final. If the final was anything like any better, I would be sitting here and thinking, yeah, Draper, Rune, incredible performances from them. But it really feels like it was just Draper who can leave the event, just everything is great. It was fantastic, all smiles. But Holger Rune, yeah, still, let's focus on the positive. So, I mean, some of his best performances in a while. Super smart tennis against the likes of Tsitsipas and Medvedev. Very different as well, but doing exactly what he should be in this matchup. The way he was always in the court against Steph and just rushing him to no ends. The way he threw in the slice like 30% of the time against Medvedev and really disrupted him so well. It feels kind of like unnatural for this week to end on a 2-6, 2-6 defeat, but that's what it ended on.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Draper is, of course, the one who impressed the most. And yeah, about Rune, of course, a very, very positive week for him. Let's say fortnight week, 10 days. Because first of all, first final in a while for him. It was since January 2024 that he didn't reach any final on tour. So for sure, positive for him to do this, and especially in a big tournament like Indian Wells. And then, of course, also getting a couple great wins. Yeah, I mean, it's not like we have seen, it's not like I'm astonished from what I've seen. Like, it's positive, good performances. We kind of knew that he's able to do this. And let's say that probably the final leaves a little bit of a sour taste about the run, but overall we cannot delete what happened before that match. Yeah, I would have liked him to be more competitive in the final. He wasn't really able to to hurt Draper in any way against Draper just solidity and Draper's ability to actually do well, also accelerating, let's say, kind of I don't know where, also at times in the rallies, finding better angles. And it was very difficult for Rune just to do what he usually does, like trying also to shorten points a bit when it just felt like he had very, very little time to do what he wanted, and never truly found a solution. And then suddenly the match was basically over. So 6-2 to love down. You're already down a set and a break, and against this version of Jack Draper, it's, well, of course, too late probably to imagine to do anything. Whatever. Still, I cannot say that it hasn't been a positive fortnight for him. So, getting closer again to the top 10, of course, 8th in the race. So let's say that after the start of the year, which was a little bit so-so, even the Australian Open, yeah, he reached the round 4, but, he looked a bit shaky throughout his run there. Finally, we've seen a good version of Rune. My wish is, of course, and I think that the big challenge for him, what he has to aim for himself, is to try to be consistent in showing us this version of himself, because it hasn't been the case over the past, let's say, year and a half or so. I think the goal for him is to find more consistency and try to show this version of himself more often on the tour.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, obviously, that the sour taste that one might have after the final, it shouldn't really outvalue what he did earlier. The wins over Tsitsipas, Medvedev, by far his best performances this season. Honestly, you could probably go even further than this and just find something in like the summer of last year, maybe, as the last time he really played like that. Yeah, I think Australia was already quite good, but then of course February he had some issues, and Rotterdam he had like some injury. Then Buenos Aires it seemed like he kind of gave up on the clay. Acapulco he was part of the food poisoning stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, it's always something with Rune, and partially that's not, partially that's kind of his fault as well. But yeah, here at least two amazing performances. And basically, the way that we have to be treating this is like, what are you going to do now? Clay courts going forward, Miami. Is it going to be just like a flash in the pan or not? Hopefully not, because indeed, some of the tennis he played was great. And I do agree that the Draper matchup was pretty difficult for him. It didn't have to be a 2-6 to 6, but Draper, as much as he like kind of grinds, he also does it with a very powerful, very heavy ball. And yeah, it was not as easy to rush somebody like that, like Tsitsipas, or someone who is so defensive of his positioning as Medvedev, and doesn't have that much on the ball either. What's the question? What sounds weird about Carlos is that he already said he had to focus on himself and his game. Mental coach. Yeah, let's actually move on to Alcaraz then, since we kind of had that in our minds anyway. He was the only player to take a set of Draper, but 2 consecutive Indian Wells titles doesn't get there. Not a perfect week by any means, and yeah, how did he lose that match to Jack? Because that was quite a puzzling one. I mean, before the semifinals began, we were definitely looking at it as like a potential, it could even be the toughest opponent on the way to the title out of Draper, Rune, and Medvedev. But then you have something like this, which is, great, 3 sets, anticipated match, but actually it was kind of weird.
No, it wasn't a match we will remember forever, in my opinion. I mean,
we might actually, but not for the right.
Yeah, reason. Not for that reason. The reason I'm, about it being such an incredible and fascinating one. It's been a bit weird, that horrible start from Alcaraz. Then he manages somehow to hold in the first game where he was actually risking to get broken again, and then the situation turns around completely. Carlos bagels Draper. Draper actually, after getting broken, starts looking a little bit weird for 10 minutes, I have to say. But yeah, Carlos starts playing better. Then in the third, I mean, it's a bit tough. It's been a bit of a disappointing performance for sure from Carlos. And overall, let's say that for a player like him, we know that Indian Wells is a court where he finds himself pretty well. Of course, he cannot be satisfied with with reaching the semifinal for being him, and for being this actually a tournament where he was on a big winning streak. And well, overall, I would say mixed feeling, meaning that, of course, it's not a tragedy yet, of course, to lose in the semifinals of this tournament. And there is still Miami, where we can see maybe he will redeem himself in Miami, and everything will look different in a couple of weeks. But as for now, of course, we are a little bit waiting for him to not have these, let's say, big ups and downs throughout some matches, like he's kind of still doing. And against Draper, I think we've seen more or less why Alcaraz is not, the most consistent top player possible, meaning, in, for example, Masters 1000 tournaments. Now he, of course, doesn't hold any, but actually hasn't reached any final in the 9 that have been playing between Miami 24, Indian Wells 25. Of course, he holds 2 Grand Slams, so it's not like you can be, it's not into discussion that he's an amazing champion and everything. So I just would like him to, to have a little less of these roller coaster ups and downs during some matches and even some tournaments. We'll see when it'll happen. Of course, there's still plenty of times. And of course, Draper was also playing very well. He's been great in the third set in regrouping after losing the second one in that way. So, all credits to Jack. But, I'm pretty sure Carlos will be disappointed with his loss and the way he played for some parts in the match. Like, you're playing against Draper, you cannot completely gift the first set that way, because then you have your back against the wall, and not every time you are able to escape the trouble.
Hi, Srihari. Nice to see you as well. Yeah, in terms of Carlos, okay, this is not going to be like a shameful plug, but I've spent a lot of time talking to Vansh about this match on the Iga and Carlos tennis show. And what you said, obviously, about the first set, I know that this was like his first match in in the day session for in like 3 or 4, but still, just 25, 30 minutes. And then the third set, especially maybe the 2-4 game, which, it's just a little careless, because by that point the match was still alive. It definitely felt like he still has a chance at that point, and he just kind of throws it away. And we did see Jack faltering at the end. There was that insurance break, basically decided that the match was still sort of going to the Brit without any extra additional pressure. Okay. Anyway, what I was trying to say as well is that it kind of keeps repeating itself, that in the slow conditions, especially, Carlos, like this should be his strength, because he's so like inventive, he's such a natural tennis player, but at the same time, good defenders have been really bothering him, like someone like Alex de Minaur in Rotterdam, Novak in Australia, in these very slow night conditions. Here you have Draper, the same pretty much, like he just makes him overplay that drop shot in the third set, because at that point Carlos just doesn't feel confident whatsoever about finishing the points off with his forehand or with anything really. There's a couple of net approaches as well in that game that definitely end up going way worse than he would have expected. So it's a bit of a pattern for sure. Something to figure out. The serve again, when basically, like the serve, of course, he changed the motion, and we see some matches when it's amazing. There's obviously that serve-bot one in Australia, when he said that, like, am I a serve bot or something like that? But then it's basically just like the that's brutal. That's brutal, but true. And basically, I think it's just like in the old days. Like it doesn't really matter. Carlos wakes up one day and he's hitting his spots, and the other day he's not, and that hasn't really changed. Seems like the second serve kick might be a little less effective too, which, well, on these courts it definitely means a lot. And in the first set, Draper was punishing that a ton. So, it's not the end of the world. As you said, 2 Grand Slams still on his ranking. But, you kind of want to reach these Grand Slams with high confidence. It's March. The clay season is going to be more important in regards to that, needless to say. But yeah. What's the article about his serving stats? Like, what's the point again? I didn't see the entire topic. But yeah, basically that's kind of where we are with Alcaraz. There was also that third set drama, which we could talk about, the video review that ended up going, well, first it was a point given to Alcaraz by Layani because he called not up. Then, of course, Jack has that one first video review, and he's perfectly right that he did get to it, which means the point should be replayed. But then Jack is also trying to argue that the not-up call came after Carlos hit his shot, which is not true. I mean, if you watch the replay, Layani clearly called it earlier. Now, that basically is the second big call I've seen from video review. That is just wrong. After Karinskaya at the US Open, of course. It kind of raises the question of what happened in terms of Layani putting is Carlos Alcaraz's new serve working, and of what happened when Layani puts on the headphones. Does he actually hear the audio? It also seemed to me because the entire thing was kind of long by then, so had 2 video reviews. He was kind of rushing through it, the checking the latter call especially. That took 15 seconds for Layani, and I don't know if he could have heard that. When I was trying to rewind that, actually the first not up call, in fact I think 2, because Layani says it 4 times. It was kind of drowning in the crowd noise. So first of all, I don't think that Draper was mean in this. I think he probably also didn't hear them. I don't know if Carlos even heard them, but in the end, obviously should have been a replay. And it's pretty wild that we have this technology and we still can't use it.
Yeah, it's been a bit, Draper found himself in a bit of unlucky situation because he would have won the point without any call. That's That's been my feeling watching, many times. But of course, this doesn't matter when the umpire calls, of course, the up before Carlos hits the shot with the ball still in play. So of course, according to the rule, the point should have been replayed. I'm not saying anything to Jack because I'm not even sure he. You really focus on when the call happened, meaning that you're reaching the ball and you're kind of sure because you watch where your opponent is, the kind of shot he plays, and you're sure about. And anyway, you have all the right to call the video review. So I'm not going to say Draper is at fault, and that we even seen, I don't know, players asking for a challenge when their ball was out this way, for example. So they have all the right to do it. It's of course the umpire having to take the right decision, and in this case it has happened actually twice. And probably we have to be a little more conservative, meaning that Laiani wasn't sure about the double bounce, because right after Draper calls the video review, the first one, he already says to Draper, I may be wrong, and so I'm like, probably if you're not 100% sure with this sort of technology, it's better not, to not risk a call if the situation is really balanced, because you can I don't know, if there's the double bounce and so the opponent asks for the video review, then it's easy situation, because if there's the double bounce, there's no controversy, just Draper loses the point and everything is over. I don't know, it's tough to say, but for sure in this case there's been a bit of a mess, and Laiani messed it up a little bit, even more than a little bit actually.
Yeah, I mean, I typically don't blame him for this call. I mean, it's a split-second decision. You don't have time to think as an umpire in this case. But yeah, you're right that with this sort of technology, which we're all still getting used to, perhaps it's better to just leave it to the player if you're uncertain. And also, yeah, I would like to know more about what happened there at the end, right? So when he puts on the headphones, does he actually hear the audio? And if he does, then why? Then I guess he just kind of rushed it a bit too much, which I think came out of the fact that he just wanted to make them play again. There was a feeling to me that basically he puts on the headphones and just instantly it happens. But anyway, Laiani just wanted to.
Yeah, it's still weird actually, I have to say, because you need just one replay if you have the audio to realize. I don't.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to hear by himself what were his thoughts on the moment, but of course
we're not gonna get that. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to try to just keep him out of the spotlight in this case, although as Matthew is lightly suggesting, Mo is one of the umpires that do like to be in the spotlight, in fact sometimes a little bit much. I still feel like he should have been banned after the Nick Kyrgios Pierre Gerber US Open pep talk. That was just some unbelievable. Yeah. Anyway, that's not the topic for today. For this, I don't blame him, unless there was something as well with the with him potentially not being able to. Well, if there was something about him potentially not being able to hear the audio, maybe it was also drowning in the crowd noise for him. Anyway, that's I think enough on it for now. Alcaraz will of course now go to Miami, and soon we'll be talking about his draw a little. Anyway, for now, Daniil Medvedev also made the semis, and I guess it's a fine result. On the other hand, two-time defending runner-up, if that's even a phrase. So he loses some points. But considering where his season has been trending, I feel like this was still a pretty decent week. Surviving that match against Fils, you could see what sort of a positive emotional reaction it got out of him, which is actually quite insane. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Daniil Medvedev celebrating a win like this. Definitely didn't do it in any of his major Grand Slam runs. Yet here, I mean, the tension was building up, and I don't think it was only the tension from this match. I think it was literally the tension from the last year or so, the fact that he hasn't won a title in so long. And well, in the end, Rune kind of did exactly what Fils was trying to do, just a tiny bit better, and executed a game plan that on these courts against Medvedev is very, very strong. But yeah, kind of given how this must have been very emotionally, just like, he was able to unleash these feelings, I do think it was still a very nice week for him in the end.
Yeah, overall, yes. I was a little bit scared before this live because I was thinking about the 4 players we would have for sure talked about. And when I thought about Medvedev, I was like, what am I going to say? Meaning that, we are of course, in a tough situation. His level, he's still good enough, to make it very, very difficult to beat for most players on tour. But of course, he's struggling to get that that one more thing in order to reach these finals once again. Now it's not only the title, but also doesn't reach any finals since Indian Wells last year. So he's in a bit of a weird position from this point of view. Still, I agree when you say that it's not just about reaching the semifinals. I think that win over Fields, for the way it came after him losing all these, tight matches against Tien at the Australian Open, to Bellucci in Rotterdam, to Griekspoor it was Dubai, winning a very tight one against a very good opponent like Fields, and of course all these feelings he let out in the moment. It was a positive week for him, that's for sure. Still, of course, it's all about the expectations. Rune, of course, executed everything very well against him in the semifinals, made it, kind of forced Daniil to play more in an offense situation. And he wasn't able to do it in the moment. He struggled to do it. He also tried to return, going maybe for a bit too much, and there was a negative data about how many return he did against Rune. He was under 70%, which is not usual for him. He is usually a player who who returns way more than most of other players do. And so overall, it's positive, but I'm still always a little bit, like having these contrasting feelings about him, because, it still feels like there was a slight chance, even though it's not a tragedy, of course, to lose against Rune, especially for Daniil in these sort of conditions. It's possible to have this loss. So, I mean, it's a very fine tournament for him, I would say. But still, you would like to see maybe 5% more. That's still my feeling, despite, agreeing with you when you say this is still a positive tournament.
I don't know. I guess I kind of look at it differently, as in, like, he scammed the win against Fields. So anything after that would have been a nice bonus. But that's kind of enough for me, as in, like, yeah, it's clear that both Fields and Rune knew exactly what they want to play against him on these courts, make him generate a lot, hit the slides predominantly in backhand exchanges. Fields was also having, actually Rune too was having some of these amazing streaks when he was just luring him forward a bit, then a deep shot, and just kind of like continuously trying to bring him down like that. Of course, it still requires a lot of discipline to beat Medvedev in an extended point. But yeah, some players are able to do it. Maybe in Miami, he's going to have a bit more luck, since these are conditions that he enjoys much, much more. Let's mention some of the other guys as well. I mean, Talon Griekspoor, for example, making that ATP 1000 quarterfinal. That's a massive step. And sometimes we have these runs from, like, let's say, slightly unexpected players. In the case of Talon, just slightly. But sometimes you have these runs and you're like, okay, so basically someone like 3 rounds earlier defeated a top seed, and that's why it happened. In the case of Talon, it wasn't like that. He just basically created that opening for himself, which I think makes it all the more worthwhile, really.
Yeah, finally beating a top 5 player at 19th. Such match for him, and yeah, actually, he kind of did both at the same time, because usually we say runs, as you say, where or there's maybe a player who gets a big win but cannot really follow it up, or the opposite, like having a deep runs but maybe taking your chances in a draw a bit. Of course, Zverev is a bit in a tough moment, but still, he kind of did both at the same time. So it's kind of a perfect big run for him, also for his ranking, because he brings him back in that sort of Grand Slam, Masters 1000 seeding spots. In Miami, he was the first out, for example, I think. So, he brings him back in a ranking which is, better for him to try to avoid, for example, like in Indian Wells, facing the top 5 player right in round 2. And yeah, just very good, because starting from Dubai, that run in Dubai was already very good, getting that great win over Medvedev, and then having another one in Indian Wells, first Masters quarterfinal, a first top 5 win, just makes him, for sure, reminds everybody that he is a dangerous player that can, when he's fighting well, when he is on, he can do damage on tour, that's for sure.
Yeah, we also had Ben Shelton, who lost to Jack Draper in the quarterfinals. I know the producer and the founder of Talking Tennis kind of will die on this heel, and he basically keeps saying that Shelton had the second set won against Draper and blew it completely. Yeah, that guy that you just saw on our screens. Well, I don't know. Basically, I didn't really watch the second set, so I have to trust someone. And on the one side, we have a big Ben Shelton fan, and on the other side, there's all the British guys on Talking Tennis. So I think the basically the lesson from this has been taught to me by the X-Files way long back. It was trust no one. And anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that Ben Shelton made the quarterfinals along with the semis in Australia. It's definitely a pretty consistent set of results for him. I think there's all sorts of reasons to be pretty excited about this season going forward for Ben, even if I'm pretty sure he's like, if I beat Jack there, he won the title. It seems like a result like this is certainly possible in Ben's near future. Just on this occasion, it wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now on tour, there are, in this tournament, many players will leave the tournament with this sort of feeling, if I won this match, there would have been a chance. Of course, Shelton, could have had his chances, but yeah, very positive in my opinion. Semi-final in Australia, quarter-final here in Indian Wells, 5th or 6th in the race. So that says it all about how well he's doing this year so far. He's kind of knocking at the door of these tournaments, and he keeps showing that he can have runs. And given what I'm watching from him, if he keeps maturing like he's doing, he will have his chances. So I think there's. I have nothing negative to say. I think he's reaching this status where he is consistently, a player. You kind of don't want to see him around in the draw, and now knocking at the doors of the top 10. So yeah, probably missed chance in February to try to break this wall, but I don't think it's in his mind. Having runs in the big tournaments are, is the biggest statement that he is improving. He's, reaching this sort of consistency that probably, and I would be surprised actually if this doesn't happen, will lead him to have a big run somewhere somehow.
I didn't know that TV shows just disappear, Matthew, when they are first aired. I think there's also reruns and stuff, and you can watch them online. You can, buy them, download them. So yeah. Actually, one of my scariest memories from my childhood is when I was 7 and I was watching an episode of The X-Files by myself. And well, let me tell you, you will never look at an MRI machine the same after that. Anyway, that's not important right now. What is important, though, let's maybe also mention someone who surprisingly has been winning 2 matches every single event as well. It's France Rundolo. And, well, that sort of consistency was not really achievable to him before, but also the win over Alex de Minaur, who I think in these conditions was so beatable for him. And he just managed to once more kind of like drag him into this Australian Open-ish match where there's, billion unforced errors. But Ferran is the one who's actually hitting through the court. And yeah, very nice run. Almost even took down Alcaraz in that second set. I mean, could have gotten it to a decider. Who knows?
Yeah, it was a very positive run for him for sure. Let's say that he also had the positive golden swing, even though, of course, maybe he wanted to capture one of these titles and he didn't do it, but overall he's doing pretty well. He got a few top 10 wins as well. This one is the minor as well. He has incredible stats against the top 10 players. But yeah, overall, let's say that against a player like Minor, yeah, he was able to just be, let's say, steadier when it mattered, meaning that, he also had many mistakes. There were difficult conditions, but he managed to have everything kind of in control. Even in the first set, it was very, very close, but he was always the one who was a little bit ahead in the score, and the Minor who was trying to catch up with him. So, well, it was for sure a great tournament. Great run for him. Managed also to grab a top 24 seed in Miami, which will avoid him, being a potential round 3 opponent for a top 8 seed. I don't know if it matters anything with the way tennis landscapes is right now. He was meant to meet potentially Djokovic, but it didn't happen here in Indian Wells. And still he would have had a chance, knowing Djokovic Indian Wells history lately, probably, I don't know, but whatever. Everything fine for him. Finally, he's, reaching some consistency, because he's always had this history of having great wins and very bad losses. And now he's actually doing pretty well in stats, also in Masters 1000 tournament, because he reached quarters in Indian Wells, in Miami as well, and he did it in Madrid and Rome. So, he's building a very, solid career for himself.
Yeah, 13-14 now against the top 10. Future top 10er and ATP 1000 champion, some say. Maybe some are right. Maybe I'm one of them. Maybe I'm not. Anyway, let's also mention Arthur Fields maybe before we get to talking about the draw in Miami a little. Fields, of course, had that great match against Medvedev, came very close. Well, the execution and the breaker could have been better, even the match point. But of course, let's not just focus on literally one rally. I do think that over the course of the week, though, it was such an improvement on his February achievements, of course, when he was like injured and not fit. He plays that match against Musetti. He turns it around by just going super aggressive in the last 2 sets. And against Medvedev, he actually shows some like semblance of thinking on the court, which is new. And, well, while he didn't get it to the end, I was definitely far more positive about his about his life after that Medvedev match than some people were. Because when he blew the tiebreak, I saw some opinions which are like, oh yeah, he's awful. I mean, he's just so disappointing. I'm like, no, actually, in that match, he showed me that maybe he's getting somewhere.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on this. Then it can happen. I mean, not playing well in a deciding set tiebreak, especially against a player like Medvedev, it can happen. But you also have to see, what he did in order to get there. And at some point in the match, he was feeling like he was struggling a lot at the beginning, even the first set. And the way he managed to get better during the match and then really push Medvedev and getting so close to win, for me, it was, it showed something positive about him. And therefore, I'm looking forward to keep watching this version of himself in the coming weeks. That's for sure. Now he gave us the news that he's not working anymore with Jean.
I didn't even see that. That's interesting. That
yeah,
was
actually,
a long
after Indian Wells.
Okay.
So
So
we'll
is there
see how...
someone new, or how does that work?
Well, in what he said, didn't say anything
Lau is
about
actually giving it to us in the chat. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
That's a good name as well. Sure.
And so
thank you, Lau, for the info.
For me, it's been a very positive round, actually. And even though, of course, he will think about it like, it could have been a chance because maybe I win, then against Rune I can win, and then I'm in the final, and then I can win again. But it's just what ifs that don't matter anything. He's had a great tournament. And, if he keeps growing and keeps maturing and keeps showing what is shown in that match against Medvedev, for me, he can really keep growing and keep getting better.
Yeah, I was wondering how long they were working together, but Arthur himself says it to me here on the screen. That was 15 months. Yeah. Anyway, that's probably, I think, all the players we really need to talk about after Indian Wells, unless you have some additional suggestions. And I think we will spend the extra 10-ish minutes of this show just talking about the Miami draw then, since we have it. No? Anyone else that you wanted to mention from Indian Wells, or are we just moving to Florida now?
I mean, Indian Wells. Novak.
Well, sure. We can also talk about Novak in the like in terms of his Miami draw, and maybe then let's fit in the conversation there. I think that's probably gonna be fine. Well, Tsitsipas was also doing well, of course. But lost to Rune in a pretty perfect performance from Holger. I guess that's someone who also made an impression despite not going, that far, not going to the quarters. But let's maybe just talk about the Miami draw then. Once more, we have the number one not banned player in the world, Alexander Zverev, and this time seems
he's
like
living the feeling.
Yeah. This time it seems like he will not have a deadly opponent. I read it, by the way. I like with Muesli, Musetti. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Musetti, yogurt, and fruit? Sure. Anyway, what I was going to say is that Zverev this time might not have as deadly of a round 2 opponent as Hrikspor, because he has Bonzi against a qualifier. However, I think what is very similar to his draw earlier was, in Indian Wells, is that Pechi Pericard is supposed to be the third round opponent, and I've kind of been pretty hungry for this matchup, and it hasn't happened, so maybe finally. And also, some potential dangers later, like Fils or Hrikspor. I don't know, how do we feel about Zverev here, in terms of, well, his form being just completely awful. And I just don't feel like we can really say that he's at the very top of the sport right now. He's definitely just we forgot about him. And it's part of that weird tennis landscape on the ATP Tour right now that we just mentioned.
Yeah. He's in a bad moment, that's for sure. As a draw, I don't think he can really complain because, Pesci round 3, if not him, it could have been another one. Round 4, at some point you have to have some dangerous player in your draw. So I don't think you can truly complain about it. I'm not even looking to quarterfinals, because considering his form, if he reaches quarterfinal, it's already, a step forward. Well, he desperately needs wins, so probably a round 2 opponent can be better than the one he got in Indian Wells. Maybe Miami, if it's a little bit faster, can help him having a little more confidence in his forehand, a little bit more, maybe serve, working better, and so he can, try getting a bit of confidence from this. He was a semi-finalist last year, so we'll see. We need an answer for sure from him, because after the Australian Open final, he basically didn't do anything good, let's say, on the tour. So now it's been a while. We are at the end of March, and if he wants to, I'm not even talking about number 1, because right now it's so far, but just take just I don't want to say keep his place inside the top 2, 3 in the ranking. He of course needs wins, and he needs to start playing better. I think when clay will come, the European clay will give him back some positive feelings, but gaining some confidence a little bit earlier and doing so already in Miami can be huge, because as we've seen with Draper and other players, the landscape, there are players ready to take their chances, and players who are knocking at the door. So
yeah, there's also that quarter, which is pretty interesting. I mean, quarter, I guess it's not a quarter. Yeah, it is a quarter, sorry. When we actually have both Rune and Draper, so both the champion and the finalist from Indian Wells. Someone earlier in the chat, maybe it was Matthew, like a while back, was saying that he basically doesn't believe that they will go any far here. Looking at the draw, yeah, like Mahac or Arnaldi definitely could get to Rune. Draper, maybe like Menchik in the second round, for example, that could be difficult. Popperin in the third round as well. But yeah, Rune and Draper potentially on on collision course in the quarterfinals. That's also a pretty big piece of info from this draw, I guess.
Yeah, on paper, let's say that it should be more difficult than probably Rublev. Rublev got Fritz. This is an interesting quarterfinal, actually. There is Shelton in this one. Probably it can be a good chance for him. We'll see. The second quarter is very, very open.
It is for sure. What the hell is muesli? Is that not a popular term? It's kind of like granola, Nurlan, if you know what that is. One qualifier would most like to make an impact in Miami. I don't know, like my answer to this maybe would be like blocks, or I don't know who else is here.
That's an interesting match. Blocks. An interesting section where the winner of Fonseca Tien will face Humbert in the second round.
Fonseca Tien again, huh?
Yeah.
That's insane. This is going to be a very tough question to answer, by the way, Keen. I mean, obviously we don't know. We don't have an entire list of wildcards. You know what is coming to mind for me though? Dallas, because it always gives wildcards to the Southern Methodist University guys. And maybe something like this, maybe an ATP event that is giving wildcards to collegians. So like Atlanta or Dallas. And of course, there's nothing wrong with like Trevor Sfida this year. But I think last year, Adam Neff had a wildcard for Dallas. And it was like Liam Kroll maybe 1 year too. I don't know if it was actually main draw or qualies. But some of that, I think we have to look for somebody who is a collegian, and basically an American event just gives them a wild card. I think these guys are definitely among the conversation.
I am mad because I haven't. There's not Colton Smith in this draw.
Yes, Colton actually is not in the qualies either. So yeah, Colton just didn't get a wild card for either competition. I have no idea why. Maybe it's also some college commitments, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean.
Tough to say. But yeah, this section you mentioned with Fonseca Tien play Humbert. Humbert defeated Fonseca at Davis Cup. But yeah, Fonseca Tien facing each other again after the US Open 23 final, and also of course an Next Gen twice. Looks pretty open the second quarter overall, I guess. We mentioned that Fritz is kind of lost at the moment, but he's still very solid. Takes a great performance to beat him. Shelton Hurkacz, that looks like a very potential third round clash that should probably happen, and that obviously is going to be a serve fest. It seems very even, but a lot of this
conditions should be better for him here in Miami.
Hurkacz, yeah, for sure.
No, and De Minaur as well. I was saying.
De Minaur, yeah, both of them, yeah, sure. They actually played right in Indian Wells, and it was very easy for Alex. But yeah, I agree that the conditions will be good for both of them here. And generally, like this second quarter, I think is a very good representation of what the ATP Tour is right now, in the sense that seeds like 29 Beretti, 27 Shapovalov, 21 Hurkacz, they're pretty much just as good as the seeds that are ranked 3, 6.
Yeah, overall,
yeah, 3, 8, 10. So yeah, that's kind of what we have here. I'm sure there have been some awful wildcards at the South American events. Not convinced. Usually there's like
because they have many players falling right short in the entry list. So
exactly, I feel like it's usually guys from Argentina who are ranked like, I don't know, 100 to 200 basically. From Brazil, it's always the same guys really. So maybe like back in the day, if Brazil didn't have, I don't know how many players, like let's say top 200 Brazil had in 2000 something, but actually no, maybe they didn't even have they had.
Is Fonseca in Buenos Aires in this conversation?
Yeah, for sure. Horrible wildcard, definitely, because he ruined the tournament for
Argentina.
So I think Argentinians hate him right now. Anyway, let's look at the bottom half as well. We've got Daniil Medvedev, who is like a big threat to Daniil Medvedev here. Let's say, and there's also Djokovic in this one. So I guess let's look at just the quarter of Medvedev. Is it going to be a
Djokovic Medvedev?
Oh, again. Oh wow! Not again. Djokovic Medvedev. That's great. I mean, we'll see how Hamad is after the split, right?
Yeah, it would be a great storyline.
If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, Djokovic is basically like funding Hamad's career more or less.
There's who other? We see
threats to Medvedev. Let's talk about threats to Medvedev. Who do you think is dangerous to Daniil here, and in his quest to return to form?
I mean, Monfils is playing pretty well. I don't know if it can be dangerous for Daniil, but I mean, if it happens around 4 between Medvedev and Tsitsipas, I know that Medvedev has a good matchup in Tsitsipas, but who knows if Tsitsipas is feeling very confident right now. He can truly trouble him. Lechka beat Daniil a couple times already. I mean, once especially, because the other time, the conditions for Daniil were not good physically. He retired. I mean, there are, of course, dangers in this draw because, but these are looking, he should win his round 2 match. And between round 3 and round 4, I think it can be dangerous if he doesn't play at least at the level he did at Indian Wells. That's for sure.
This is again hilarious because Nurlan had this question, right? And I mean, I now understand that he misspelled Keen, but because it's Cain, and that's a biblical figure who killed his brother. I was like, what is he talking about? What is the fratricidal theme to this episode? Anyway, never mind. This is a wild prediction from Keen, considering how Coleman Wong has been playing for about a year now. But yeah, what's your trust level in Djokovic then? Medvedev round 2. I mean, if Hamad is fit, I think. Please. Yeah, like if Hamad is fit, I would like his chances against Novak right now. I think.
Look, it's very difficult to draw a prediction about Djokovic because we know how good he still can be, but at the same time, we know that, he cannot look that good consistently. Motivation plays a big factor. And I don't know. That's why I really cannot give you an answer about Novak. It's, that time for him, where if he loses to Medvedev, for example, I wouldn't be shocked. But if he reaches quarterfinal or semifinal, I wouldn't be surprised, let's say, because then at the end I know that he can still play well in some, when he wants, and can also physically. So it will depend on many factors. But yeah, if Medvedev, for example, is fine physically and is really motivated, it can be a threat for sure. Even because I don't see Medvedev as one of these players who suffer from the you are Novak Djokovic, and so I don't play my best. Not because I don't want to, but because I feel a little bit terrorized. And Alcaraz has a good draw.
With Novak, it can be a bit different, though, right? I mean, Novak has special meaning to.
That's true.
For Hamad, I mean, Novak could mean something different. I don't think that's true, Sean. That I mean, he's had years when he played like 10, 11 events, and he was perfectly fine, and he was winning most of them. So probably not.
For me, it's it's just that probably we struggle to admit that he is not as good as he used to be.
Old. He's old. Yeah. No, I mean, the one thing that is saving Novak right now is that in terms of like how we view him is the Australian Open. When it really, effing mattered to him, he beat Alcaraz. And like, that's all I can say. Like, even if he keeps losing the first match until the end of the year, he will still have that. And we will be thinking like, okay, so when he's really motivated, maybe he can still get things done. And
that's why I always say, he's not as good as he used to be, but we cannot underestimate him. And that's why I'm kind of the situation where I cannot really predict what he's going to do, especially in a tournament like this one. Maybe Grand Slam, I would already be a little bit more, looking forward for him. Right now, I'm not sure.
That draw for Alcaraz, indeed. I mean, the first three rounds look so good for him.
Look, I'd be surprised if it doesn't reach. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like penciling him into the semis looking at this, I think.
Yeah.
That's not the same for Kasper Ruud, who can play either Kecmanovic or Kovacevic. Kovacevic having just won Kapkana, of course. There's the Phoenix runner-up Bublik in this one as well, who can play Paul in the second round. That would be so exciting. So I guess, Alcaraz just looks like a very strong favorite in this fourth one. Federico Cina with a wild card too. Mario, how happy are you to see Federico Cina in an ATP 1000 draw?
Yeah, I'm very happy actually, and I'm really interested to know his opponent, since he will face a qualifier, and we see how he does. I don't know if he's already, ready for this, but we'll see. He still is doing quite well so far, so it will be a nice experience for him. We'll see who will face and what happens.
Clay season pre-RG is when Matthew will judge Novak. I guess you're still operating under your assumption that RG could actually be a surprisingly decent chance for Novak to win a slam. Well, if that's the case, then yeah, I get what you're saying. Although personally, I am in the other camp. What is your expectations of Zverev in this event? One last question from Ozan. Win a couple of matches because there's no Griekspoor in the second round, but like fourth round quarters, I wouldn't be surprised if he loses to somebody. I don't even have a particular name in mind, just someone who's playing very strong. One of these players we keep mentioning in the sense that, between like 5 and 25 right now on the ATP Tour, even 5 and 30, everybody is good, but nobody is.
Yeah, round 4 as kind of the minimum goal. of
I
course,
like how Nick Carter has infiltrated talking tennis in the like minimum expectation and all that lingo that he basically introduced with his fantastic article. Anyway, is that it? Do we have any more thoughts on this?
I don't know. These draws are so big that I always struggle to really, I kind of need to at least to, eliminate both of the guys after round one to start really looking at the full draw. But whatever, there are many sections that are very, very interesting, especially that one between De Minaur and Humbert. I'm really looking forward to it. We'll see. I'm kind of happy before this tournament. Let's see if I will be as well after the tournament.
Yeah, you cannot see that, and I'm not gonna put him front stage because that's kind of uncool. But me and Mario have footage of John Silk sleeping in the background, which is very fun. Yeah, that's the most I can do though. I'm not gonna put him on screen as I don't know if he would be comfortable with that. Anyway, also yeah, Mario, one more question to you: is Koboli's form concerning to you? And yeah, how do you feel about his 25 so far?
Well, how do I feel? It's easy to answer because, it's been so far disappointing. Well, it looks a little bit concerning, but well, still, if we look at him 1 year ago, he's taken big steps and yeah, of course he needs wins as soon as possible because then you can enter also some sort of tough situation mentally as well. Yeah, did decently in the last tournament, even against Nishikori. Didn't do that bad. But yeah, I'm a bit concerned about his form. Let's see next tournaments. Maybe not Miami, but especially, now that the clay season will start and we'll have this, the week, for example, before Monte Carlo, how he does. Let's see about it. Probably, he needs to get back to, more comfortable situation, probably Europe and we'll see if he starts getting better there or if the, let's say, crisis will continue.
That's that pretty much covers it, guys. I think WTA Weekly is going to be starting shortly as well, so make sure to tune into that. And thank you for all the questions in the chat. We will be back after Miami, and obviously during the entire event, you're going to get a lot of content on talking tennis as well. The qualifying today should be some fun matches, so if you wanna tune into that, also go ahead. And thank you, Mario.
Thank you as always.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.